You already received a gift, right? A birthday, a celebration, a gesture of kindness. And like everyone else, you smiled, said thank you, and maybe even kept this gift carefully. More. Have you ever taken a moment to wonder what this gift really carried? What if, behind his harmless appearance, he hid a negative spiritual influence? It may seem exaggerated, but in this video, you will discover 5 types of gifts that it is better refuse or check carefully, not out of fear, but out of wisdom and discernment. Because sometimes, it's not what you're given that matters, but what you let into your life. Tell me in comments, have you ever felt embarrassed when given a gift? And above all, subscribe to this channel if you want content that helps you see beyond appearances and protect your spiritual space. Like, comment, share, and let yourself be guided to more clarity, peace, and power in your life. We'll start right away. Get ready. You'll never look at a gift the same way again. 1. Objects that come from people with troubled or spiritually unstable experiences. There are objects that you don't really look at anymore. They are there, in a drawer, hanging on a wall, placed on a shelf. You don't question them anymore. You almost forgot about them. But sometimes, without you understanding why, a heaviness settles into the room, like an invisible veil. What if it wasn't in your head? You see, a piece of clothing can seem ordinary, a bracelet, a necklace, a small statuette, or a simple book. But what we too often forget is that objects keep a memory, not a human memory, a print. Everything that was touched, worn, offered, bears a trace of whoever owned it. Imagine for a moment, you receive a nice jacket, well cut, almost new. We tell you it's a gift. But what no one tells you is that the person who gave it went through a dark night of the soul. That she cried in this garment, screamed in this garment, that she carried it through hours of suffering, rage, or spiritual confusion. And now you're the one wearing it. It's not cinema. This is not New Age fiction. It is a spiritual reality. Things transmit, not always voluntarily, but they transmit. Some objects are like emotional magnets. They absorb what we experience, and then they broadcast. Subtly. You may have noticed, sometimes, after putting on a piece of jewelry that someone gave you, you feel different. Not bad, but restless. Or maybe you start having weird dreams. You lose patience faster. You feel a tension that you can't explain. And you don't make the connection. Why would you do it? It's just an object. More, the invisible world does not stop at logic. There are gifts that are not given to do you good, not consciously perhaps, but because they come from an unstable source, disturbed, spiritually compromised. They carry with them the imprint of this instability. Look around you. What objects have a story that you don't know? Who gave you this photo frame, this ring, this book? What was this person going through when they gave it to you? What state of mind was she in? What was its link to the spiritual, to truth and falsehood? You see, we often believe that what counts is the intention. But in the spiritual, it is not just what we want to convey who passes. This is what we are. An angry man can give a watch with kindness. More, it is his anger that the watch will transmit. A broken woman can give you a scarf with love, but it is his pain that the fabric will hold, and this is nothing new. In many cultures, one never wears the clothes of a deceased person without purification. We do not bring back objects from a place where there has been conflict, illness, or spiritual disorder. Not out of superstition, for ancestral knowledge, invisible contamination. If you pay attention, sometimes you feel it. That slight discomfort when you pass in front of an object. This sudden desire to put it away, to no longer see it. Your mind knows. But your logic prevents you from listening. And this is where many fall into the trap. Because they want to be reasonable. Because they don't want to exaggerate. But what you refuse to identify continues to act in the shadows. Do you want to keep peace in your house? So start by asking the right questions. Who gave me this item? What spiritual state was this person in? Have things changed since I got it? My mood, my sleep, my peace? You don't need to understand everything. You just need to listen to what your mind feels. Being aware of what you are letting into your home is not being paranoid. It's being awake. Because not everything comes to elevate you, and certain objects, even the most beautiful, wear invisible chains. 2. Gifts given by people who have hurt you before. You know that moment when someone who destroyed you in one way or another comes back with a gift. A beautifully packaged little package, a so-called unimportant object. And you hesitate. You hold out your hand. But your heart tenses up a little. What if it wasn't just a gift? And if it was a disguised test? A much more subtle maneuver than it seems? Because we have to say it frankly. Not everyone gives a gift to please you. There are gifts that are actually hooks, invisible threads for pull you back into an old dynamic, an old pain. And those who give them know exactly what they are doing. There are people who lied to you, who betrayed your trust, who trampled on your dignity, and one day they come back, not with an honest apology, not with restorative words, with a gift. Because the gesture makes us forget the facts, right? Therein lies the trap. You think, maybe he or she has changed. And it is possible, but often it's not change, it's a strategy. The gift becomes the bridge towards a door that they want to reopen, not a physical door, more the one you have closed inside you. Your forgiveness, your inner security, your limit. And the problem is that you want to be nice. You want to show that you are mature, that you do not hold grudges. So you accept. You say thank you. You even smile. But inside, something is slowly closing, because you know it. You feel it. This gift is not neutral. It's a coded message. A message that says, I want to get back into your emotional field. Not always to repair, often for regain control, reactivate a link, reinscribe their name in your life. You can forgive someone without give him access again. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not the automatic opening of all your doors. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. And certainly not to give them the opportunity to invade you again disguised as generosity. There are gifts that smack of manipulation, and you know it as soon as you touch them. It's too heavy for their size, too emotional for their value, as if the present meant something other than what it is. Do you want proof? Observe what happens after you accept it. You receive this book, this jewel, this letter, this photo, and suddenly you start thinking about that person again. You reopen a discussion. You start to doubt your decisions again. You become more flexible, more vulnerable, and he or she starts to take up space in your mind again. That's the power of a poisoned gift. It's not the object that hurts, it is the link it reactivates. Some gifts are not offerings, these are bait, and behind it there is an invisible strategy. Make you accountable, create an opening, return to your inner space without invitation. So ask yourself this simple question. Did what I received freeze me or takes me back? Is this present calm my mind or discreetly troubles me? Does this person seeks reconciliation or emotional domination? And remember, you don't have to justify your intuition. You don't have to explain yourself when you refuse an item. You don't have to reopen a door that God Himself helped you close. It's not grudges. It's the spiritual lucidity. And sometimes, saying no thank you to a gift, it's the healthiest thing you can do for your heart, your soul, and your peace. 3. ethnic, artistic, or exotic objects without knowing their origin. They're beautiful, aren't they? These worn wooden masks, hung on the wall like works. These small, finely carved statues, brought back from a distant market. These handmade necklaces, bought in an alley in Asia or Africa just for the souvenir. They have a soul, they say. They tell a story, a culture, a tradition. And it's true. More, what story is this about? And to what spirit does this soul belong to? You didn't pray in this temple, no. You did not sing these incantations. You did not burn incense to this unknown God. You just bought an item. You put it at home. You looked at him with curiosity, sometimes even with admiration. But during this time, something was watching you too. Each object has an origin, and some origins are not neutral. A mask in some villages is not an ornament, it's a canal, and intermediate between the visible and the invisible. A summoning tool, a relic of prayer addressed to other powers. And when you bring it home, even without understanding, even without believing, you import a trace of this presence. You can call it art, craft, tribute to culture. But the mind does not stop at human labels. He slips where he is honored. And sometimes your wall becomes an unintentional little altar, a half-open door, a memory that has become spiritual access point. There are objects that are sold with a smile, but created in the silence of an ancient ritual. A statue in a tourist stall may well have been the central object of a spirit worship ceremony the day before. This necklace may have been blessed, but not by what you think, and you, as a curious tourist, adopted it, without realizing that it wasn't just a memory, it was an invitation. You wouldn't put a wolf trap in your living room just because it's made of wrought iron. So why would you place on your library an effigy carved to attract spirits from another world? Why hang a ritual mask which, in its country of origin, can only be worn in trance with eyes closed and breath held? This is not a question of despising cultures. On the contrary, but the culture without discernment becomes confusion. And some traditions are not neutral. They are not artistic. They are spiritually active, and often you only know it afterwards. You start having nightmares. You feel a strange presence in your home. You lose your concentration. The peace in your house turns into dull tension, and you look for logical causes. But you never look at what you have hanging on the wall. Have you ever asked God if this beautiful object pleases him? Have you ever prayed over that sculpture you put just for decoration? Have you ever felt uneasy when walking past an object in your home without daring to really listen to it? You see, the enemy doesn't always come disguised as a nightmare. Sometimes it comes in the form of a vacation memory. He settles down quietly. He waits for you to forget his presence, and he acts, not loudly, more in depth. So before saying, it's beautiful, it's authentic, it's cultural, ask yourself, who was honored with this object? What prayer was said when it was made? Is this beauty a door to the light, or a veil placed over an invisible prison? It's not always the visible objects that are the problem. These are the ones you don't question. Those you think are harmless, the ones you brought back for memory, but who, in truth, were never supposed to leave their homeland. 4. Money or donations loaded with hidden intentions. Do you think this is generosity? Do you think it's love, help, a kind gesture? Think for a second, because sometimes what we call gift is actually a self-interested investment. A way to have you in my pocket. There are people who give, but not to raise you. They give for get attached. They give for own your yes, your attention, your permanent gratitude. They don't help you. They buy you. But it's subtle. You don't see it coming. Because they smile? Because they save you when you're at the bottom? Because they say, I just want your best. But very quickly, you discover the subtext. You feel that you no longer have the right to say no, that every decision you make must now be approved, validated by the one who helped you. That's it, the manipulation by gift. It is the sweetest prison and the most dangerous. Do you want a simple test? Ask yourself, if I refuse what this person gives me, does they still love me? If I make a decision without consulting her, does she support me or make me feel guilty? And if I move away tomorrow, is she threatening to withdraw her help? If these answers bother you, maybe it's because you live under influence. We need to talk about it. Because too many people think they are blessed when they are just captives of false kindness. They say, he paid me this, he gave me this, she saved me. But in reality, they have lost their voice in the relationship. They don't really decide anymore. They count what they owe, even if it's invisible, even if no one talks about money. But just because there is no bill doesn't mean there is no debt. She's just emotional, and sometimes even spiritual. The truth is that money has a smell, and not everything that is given is pure. There is a form of giving which looks like an offering, but which in reality is a control maneuver disguised as generosity. And in the spiritual world, every donation is a transaction. There is an invisible exchange. And what you get connects you to the hand that gave it. If this hand is pure, you are blessed. But if she is full of jealousy, possessiveness, or a desire to dominate, so what you get is a string, not a blessing, and you feel it sooner or later. You hesitate to speak. You are careful not to wrinkle. You find yourself saying yes, when your heart is screaming no. For what? Because we gave you, and you think that obliges you. But you were not born to be held. You were born to be free, and everything that takes away your inner freedom is not a blessing. It's a trap. There are even people who give with the intention that you will never succeed without them. Do you realize? They want to be your source. They want you to depend on them, to come back, to consult them for everything. They don't want you to stand on your own 2 feet. They want to be the air you breathe. What if you try to walk away? They remind you of everything they have done for you. Without me, you wouldn't be here. You owe me a lot. None. You don't owe them anything if the gift was pure. But if it was a trap in disguise, then you must free you. In the spiritual realm, this kind of bond is called a silent contract. And as long as you don't break it, you remain indebted in your soul. So pray. Disengage. Give back if you can. Coop. And if you can't give back, spiritually cancels this link. Give up invisible debt. Because a free heart is worth more than any ticket. You are not something that can be bought. You are not a pawn on someone else's chessboard. You are a free being. And everything that threatens this freedom disguised as a gift must be discerned, refused, broken. 5 gifts received during an important transition period. There are times in life when we feel vulnerable, when the path ahead of us seems unclear and uncertain. A major change has taken place, or is about to take place. Whether it's a new job, a marriage, a birth, or a move to another place, each of these events represents a break with the old and an opening to the new. But in times like these, sometimes more than ever, the things that come into our lives have a much deeper impact than we could imagine. Let's take a simple example. You start a new job. It's a new beginning, but also a period of adaptation where doubts may arise, where you find yourself testing your limits, questioning your place in this new environment. This is where gifts can arise, objects that are given to you during this key period. A colleague brings you a little lucky charm, a statuette, or a piece of jewelry that he found on a trip or that he has kept for years. A friend gives you something to celebrate this new professional adventure. Perhaps, at the moment, you don't think about the real significance of this gesture. You accept the item with a smile, simply thinking, "That's a nice gesture." But what you don't know is that this object carries an energy, an intention that goes far beyond simple apparent generosity. When we go through a transition, our aura is weakened. We are more sensitive to external influences, more vulnerable to what enters our space. And often, these gifts, these symbols of support, can actually serve as gateways to influences that are not necessarily positive. Perhaps the jewelry your colleague gave is an old relic that he inherited from a toxic person, whose disturbing energies never left the item. Or maybe the statuette you were given in a moment of joy hides a memory of an event that has not been completely calmed, a form of stagnant energy. This is not a question of bad will on the part of donors. They are not trying to harm you, far from it. But objects, gifts, carry stories, memories, vibrations. And sometimes these objects come from places where the intentions were not the best. It only takes one object, even if offered with the greatest of loves, to introduce an energy which, instead of supporting your transition, risks blocking it. With a single gesture, we could sow doubt, confusion, or worse, create a blockage. It's often discreet, almost invisible at first, but the impact is very real. In these moments of transition, vigilance is required. It is not a question of systematically rejecting any gift or object offered, but it is essential to exercise discernment. If you have any doubts about the object, if something is disturbing you internally, it may be wise to cleanse it energetically before fully accepting it into your space. Perhaps a simple purification, such as exposure to light or sage smoke, is enough to dissipate the negative energies attached to the object. It is also important to understand that some gifts are more than what they seem. They are vectors of intentions, discreet messengers who can subtly influence our journey. These objects have the power to disrupt our transition if we are not careful about what we allow into our personal sphere. A simple figurine or watch can be a tool of distraction or confusion. When we find ourselves in a fragile period, the influence of an object is not negligible. And it is not only the object itself that plays a role, but also the intention of the person offering it. Sometimes, the energy attached to a gift can come from the state of mind of the person giving it, their expectations, their beliefs, or even what they leave unsaid. If, for example, a gift is given with hidden or unexpressed intentions, this in itself can be a source of influence. Energy, even unconsciously, can be projected into the object we receive. And in a period of transition, this energy could disrupt your balance. Moving, for example, is one of the heaviest transitions. It's not just about changing location, but about redefining an entire environment, a living space. At this precise moment, it is crucial to get rid of unnecessary objects, stagnant energies. Each new object that we welcome in our new place carries a vibration, and sometimes these vibrations can chase away the harmony that we are trying to recreate. So, the question is not, is this gift nice, or is this gesture kind? But rather, what type of energy does this object carry? This is a question that is necessary, especially when we are going through a major transition phase. This is a time when every element can have a greater impact than usual. Each object, each gift, becomes an opportunity to be more attentive to what we allow to enter our sphere, our intimate space. Thank you for your support. If you liked this video, consider like, share with someone who needs to hear this, subscribe with the bell activated so you don't miss anything.